We have with us Mr. Shashank Srivastava, Senior ED Marketing and Sales at Maruti Suzuki, joining us now to discuss their August auto sales and the business outlook as well. Mr. Srivastava, thanks a lot for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. Well, you know, your sales were at 1.65 lakh units in August, which is up 27% on a YOY basis, but it is lower month on month, and this is despite the strong order backlog. Any particular reason for this month-on-month slowdown that you can explain?
No, actually, it's the number of working days for production in August were less. There were 23 days against the normal 25 or 26. So I think that explains that small drop. Otherwise, as far as the availability of semiconductor components is concerned, it was at similar levels. And as you just said, we had pending bookings, in fact, crossed 400,000 at one point of time during the month, now stands at 377,000.
Okay, so even exports have slowed down to 21,481 units, which is up only 4% on a YOY basis. Is there any pressure in the export markets as well?
Not really. If you see the first 5 months, the total exports have been 111,000 against 87,000 last year. So that's actually a pretty strong growth. Last month, 21,500 against 20,600 of the previous year. I would say the base is pretty strong. For last year was the highest ever exports from Maruti Suzuki. In fact, we ended up being #1 exporter for passenger vehicles with 238,000 units. And we expect the exports to be in the same range, slightly higher than last year. We haven't really seen an impact of the global economic scenario so far. Maybe the effect can probably be seen with a lag. So I'm not sure about that, though. At the moment, it looks as if we are going in pretty strong, even compared with the last year's strong numbers.
Okay, so FY23 exports seen better than last year, and as of now, at least, there has been no impact of the uncertain macros, but you remain watchful. Are you seeing any slowdown in the entry compact segment demand, and also any slowdown in the CNG variants, given the sharp rise in CNG prices?
So CNG vehicles demand, you are right, is basically depend on the differential of the fuel price between gasoline, diesel, and the CNG. And in the past few months, because of the geopolitical situation, we have seen this gap coming down. Logically, CNG demand should soften in response to this, but we haven't really seen that. We have seen CNG demand roughly similar. We still, out of those 377,000 pending bookings, about 125,000 are CNG vehicles. But I've always maintained, and I would like to repeat here, that the real underlying demand will be known once the production increases. And thankfully for CNG vehicles, we have started increasing that production. As you would have seen this month, we sold 31,000 plus CNG vehicles. So I think going forward, we'll get to know the real picture. At the moment, it looks that the demand hasn't really dented. But logically, it should once the differential comes down more than what it is today.
Okay, so generally, what is the overall outlook for September and October? From this level of 1.65 lakh units, what kind of run rate can you guide for, say, the next few months?
I can't really give you the exact, projection, the forward-looking numbers. However, I think the chip situation is becoming better, although it is still not 100%, and I don't expect it to be 100% okay for the next few months. However, with the strong pending bookings and the festive season coming around, I do hope that we will be able to get to very good numbers during the festive season. One point, though, mentioned before as well, that really the production is the overall numbers is one issue, but more importantly, I think is model-wise production. It should be in line with the underlying demand pattern, and that I believe is what is going to give us the full impact going forward for the festive season. So if we are able to produce as per the underlying demand pattern, we can see some really strong numbers.
Okay, so optimistic about the festive season demand. So I wanted to talk to you about the utility vehicles. While Maruti is focused on recovering back lost share, but year to date, we're yet to see a pickup in market share for Maruti in the UV segment. Is this in line with your expectation? And when can we expect a pickup in market share for Maruti in UVs?
So the utility market share has picked up a few percentage points, actually about 210, 220 basis points for Maruti Suzuki. However, this level still remains small. And the reason is that while we have unveiled the Grand Vitara in the mid SUV segment, which is a pretty strong segment, it's about 18% of the overall market, we haven't really started sale of those vehicles. The production just started towards the last week of August, and we are yet to start dispatches of the Grand Vitara. Probably the dispatch of the Grand Vitara will start somewhere around mid-September, and we will be able to launch the vehicle towards the end of September. And that would then start reflecting in the uptick in the market share. The uptick in the market share in SUV, the 220 basis point that I'm referring to, has happened largely because of the new Brezza. So the Brezza has been doing well. So far, we have crossed the 106,000 fresh bookings for the new Brezza. And that, I think, is a pretty strong going. But then Brezza last year also was good. Overall, in the year, did about 115,000 units, 116,000 units. And it was the leading entry SUV even last year.
Okay, so can you give us a sense of what is the waiting period on some of the best-selling models for you, Brezza, Ertiga, Baleno, etc.?
The waiting periods actually is the highest for Ertiga, then the Brezza and the Baleno, as you mentioned, as also the Desire. Baleno, by the way, we have increased production quite a lot. And in fact, Baleno was the #1 car in the industry this month, that is in August, after a long time, because WagonR was the #1 for a very, very long time. And Baleno now has become the #1, although by a few extra numbers over the WagonR last month. So it's going strong. We do hope that going forward, we'll continue this trend with the new Baleno.
And just one final word, any color on the rural versus urban split in terms of demand? Rural has been growing faster than urban in the last few months. What's the situation now?
Yeah, interestingly, this year, after many years, the urban demand seems to be, the growth seems to be similar to the rural growth. Otherwise, the rural growth has always been, for the last 10, 12 years, always been higher than the urban growth. This year so far is roughly similar. Last month also, it was the same story. Actually, rural grew a little more than the urban areas last month. But I think there is no one sentiment in the rural market. Certainly, the monsoon on an overall basis has been about 7% up over the long-term averages. So that's good. However, there are some states like Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, Eastern UP, Northeast, etc., where even Haryana, where the rainfall is a little bit short. However, if you look at the overall basis, Kharif sowing just a little less than last year. So I think the sentiment is still positive. Although I suppose it will also depend on how the economy shapes up overall going forward.